Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO and president and founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studio, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. A 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. And also Eva.ai, and the AI HR tech company. In fact, one of the early 2016 generative AI HR tech companies, pre-ChatGPT. So with that, GSD has a super scaler, and we've been running that. We're on our 17th cohort, and we have some incredible companies that have come through. And with one of those today that has just raised $2 million, Aki Balogh, who's the co-founder and CEO of DLC.link, is with us. He is the co-founder and president of MarketMuse, advisor at Zaki.io, builders of the El Salvador Chivo wallet, holds 2 patents in semantic analysis, ex-VC at OpenView, and builds the decentralized tech to empower society. With that, I'd like to bring Aki on board. Hi, Aki. How are you doing?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. Well, you've done a heck of a job. Congratulations. It's just, the market seems to be working in the right direction for you. So how do you go from community college, Washington, all the way to the point where you're a venture capitalist? What's the journey like? You were a software developer, you were a strategy analyst, intern at Microsoft. How does that happen?
Yeah, I guess I like to kind of make custom moves and kind of big jumps career-wise. That sort of in going forward, it doesn't make sense. But then when you look back, you're like, oh, I can kind of see that. So yeah, I was born in Hungary. I started coding or writing software when I was like 9 or 10 in small ways. Got into my first programming language, Perl, my first real programming language at 13. And at 15, I had an opportunity to go to community college instead of high school. There was a program called WTMC, Washtenaw Technical Middle College, that still exists actually. And basically, I was able to just go there, and they would take the money the state allocated for high school and use it to pay for all my college classes. So I got 124 college credits, and I got an associate's degree in business computer programming.
You got 124? That's enough for 4 years.
Yeah, it was like community college credits, and then some of them transferred to Michigan. So I got a year off at Michigan. So basically, I did a CS degree at 18, and also had the opportunity to be the graduating speaker to an audience of like 3,000-4,000 college students, which at 18 was a real confidence booster. And that stuff does make a difference. And then I did a BB at Michigan, and then I've just been sort of building stuff ever since. And even after that, it was sort of like a funny trajectory. I got into management consulting because I thought that would be a great training ground. I did that for 2 years. I thought, hey, I could probably do this myself. So I went independent, and I sold a project to the government of Abu Dhabi, and I lived in Abu Dhabi for a few months working on that project. That was just basically, I saw the process that the partners, would do to sell these consulting projects. They'd make contacts, they'd, do account management, like they'd kind of map, who the decision makers are, kind of get to know them. They'd send proposal, they look for opportunities. I'm like, I feel like I could do that, I think. And so I had an opportunity with a friend of mine who worked for the Abu Dhabi government. And I'm like, hey man, I kind of want to do a project internationally. Do you think there's any interest in Abu Dhabi to work with a consultant like me? And he's like, oh, absolutely. He made a connection, and I, put together a proposal, and I sold the project. And I ended up working with BCG. It was BCG's first engagement with the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. It was their first engagement out of their Abu Dhabi office. And now, I was just in Abu Dhabi.
You were like subcontracted to BCG?
I was actually their client. So I worked for the Abu Dhabi Education Authority, and BCG was serving them. So I became like their client contact.
Wow.
Which
How was that?
It was an adventure. I mean, I arrived and I met with my boss, Dr. Saleh, who now is a high up guy at ADNOC, their energy group. But at the time, he was focused on education and a foundation called the Emirates Foundation, and I worked for him at both. And so I had this first meeting with these BCG consultants from Germany, and Dr. Saleh left, and the project leader there was like, "Hey, so one question, what the hell are you doing here?" And I'm like, I'm just trying to serve the emirate here and do my best, and I'm a consultant. And then we got to know each other, and we worked together for a few months on that there, doing setting up technical professional education, which I really believed in because I had gone to community college, which is professional education. So I loved that. And then I also did another engagement for the board of this Emirates Foundation. And after that, I came actually back to consulting for one more project. I worked for the board of AIG in 2009 when it was, kind of tanking and things were looking real bad. But the company I worked for, Diamond, sold an engagement to the board around basically their property and casualty insurance operations. And so we did this whole like econometric thing for 5 months. And it was a really kind of long, hard project. And I was like, all right, now I'm done with consulting. And I switched to private equity I didn't have any investment banking skills, but I basically became a free intern working for 2 private equity guys. And I did 5 months there. And then in the evening, I would take LBO modeling classes. So I actually learned how to build the financial models from scratch. So after a while, I sort of fake it till you make it, but I was a free intern, so I worked hard for, free.
And which company was that?
That was called Family Equity Partners. And you wouldn't know of them in that way, but my boss, Michael Gober, went on to buy one business that you might have heard of called Farmers Only. So it's a dating site for farmers. So basically Michael built that up to a behemoth. I think they're at like 50 million ARR or more at this point, maybe 100. I don't know. They're big.
It's for farmers, for dating?
Yeah, dating. Yeah, farmers. Yeah, dating site for farmers.
Well, that must be interesting.
It's a great niche. And that's what Michael saw. Michael was like a, digital marketing guy. And he's like, well, like in cities, you can meet people, but when there's a lot of like land between
because you're busy and you don't have time. Is it for Amish and Mennonites, or is it just for regular farmers?
As far as I know, it's any kind of farmer. But
that must be interesting. I've never seen that. That is quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, they have all these commercials on TV, like "You're never lonely with Farmers Only." That was their like tagline.
Oh, that's great.
It's
Farmers Only.
And yeah, and it was funny because Michael's a New York digital marketing guy. And so most people, like, they just execute a digital marketing playbook, SEO, whatever. And he eventually did that. But in the beginning, he's like, no, our audience watches TV. So he got these like TV ads, and that worked. He reached his audience, and it worked really well. And the product obviously performs. So that was that. That was
that's boondoggle. That's interesting.
And then from there, I got an adventure.
Then you go for family equity, and then you did acquiring middle market companies. Then you went over to OpenView. Now, how was it going over to OpenView? What was it like? You were there just a short period of time, right? 9 months.
Yeah, I was there 9 months, and it was a great learning opportunity. It's a great fund. The people there are phenomenal. 2 weeks into the job, I moved to Boston for this job, and 2 weeks in, the founder of the fund, Scott, was like, "Hey," he's like, "I've been thinking, like, we just met. You're kind of like how I was when I was going to MIT. I was building stuff. You're like a builder." He's like, "Why don't you leave and like build something, like start a company or something?" And I'm like, I just moved here for you. And he's like, no, don't get me wrong. Like, this cool job, you'll like it for a bit, but like, I feel like you really should build something and come back to venture later. And that was like my second week there. So then I did source a deal for them. I sort of paid my dues, but then, within, 9 months, I found there was a founder that I was talking to, and he's like, you should join and help me like turbocharge my thing. And so I ended up going there, but I still want to go back to venture at some point in life.
Well, how do you go from there then you go to sales and marketing, Infobee?
Yeah. So that was,
yeah.
So I think the trend here that you may or may not notice is these are like, I try to do a job in something that I don't know how to do to learn a new skill. And maybe that's like, like consulting, I didn't know anything. So, developing, right? I didn't know anything. So I picked up a book, started coding. Consulting, I didn't know anything. So I'm like, well, these guys will train me. I went there. PE, I didn't know any PE, but like, I learned it there. So definitely a lot of on the job learning. And so that was, after what, Scott's advice that I should like build stuff first. The CEO of this company, InfinityDB, needed help in sales and marketing. And I came in as his right-hand guy. And I didn't really know anything about sales. And so I had done some sales previously in my previous two jobs, just like sourcing deals, but I didn't know how to actually do it in an operational sense. And so I was lucky enough to, get it from the CEO and the team there, the VP of business development, who was a very accomplished guy, the VP of sales, so basically just work for these folks and kind of learned it on the job. And then once I had done that for 2 years, I felt confident enough to start my own startup because I felt like I kind of had like these pieces together, and I'm like, all right, let's like try to assemble them in one go and see what we can do.
No, that's amazing. So you go over, so you did further advisory, the go-to-market strategies and boutique management consulting. You decided to go back to that again?
That's just something on this. That's something I started last year, and it's just on the side. To be honest, I don't do too much with them right now. That's basically the consulting company I used to work with. They were bought by PwC after I left, and some of the people from there eventually left PwC, and they do like consulting. But I work with Further once in a while. I actually just met up with some of these consultants last night, just here in New York. I work with Zaki, that's a software development firm you mentioned. They build a whole lot of important stuff, so I help them with BD sales. There's another company called Invisible, that's an AI company here in New York that's doing really well. I help them with partnerships, BD, introduction. So I just sort of do this, like my hobby, to do like BD intros.
No, that's great. And I hope they pay you for them.
Yeah. It's like sometimes it's like passion. Sometimes they, pay me some commission, but it's really just because, building my company DLC.link, which is the one we went through it with GSD Labs, my second company. It's great, and it's great. It's just it's one topic that I'm like working on the same problem for 10 plus years. So like in the nights and evenings, whatever weekends, it's just cool to get like see another company, different challenges, kind of keep my brain fresh. So I don't fall into the same patterns over and over.
Yeah, well, no, it's important to keep your brain fresh. So then you became a business development advisor. So Zaki. And so are you still there with Zaki, or what's happening with those guys?
Yeah, I just, it's another one of these kind of, non-committal BD relationships. I just saw those guys as well. They were in New York. Also, they were in Abu Dhabi the week before, so I connected them to people I know there. So it's just sort of help, sometimes you see a great company, and I mean, this is, I imagine, what happens with VCs too. Like you see a lot of great companies and you just want to help a bit of your time. So you do maybe an hour or two a week, or maybe an hour or two a month. And it really helps them because, these companies, people are like these guys are Hungarian software engineers. They're brilliant. They've done really important work that's helped the world. And nobody, very few people kind of know about them. Like they spread through word of mouth in the industry, which is great. But I just also try to help them think kind of bigger picture and getting the word out, and, meeting some strategic partners and that kind of thing.
No, that's great. And have you been back to Hungary much? Do you ever get to go back?
Yeah, I was just there a few months ago. We had a company offsite in Slovenia, and then my co-founder and most of our team is in Budapest.
Slovenia, by the way, did you like it?
Gorgeous, yeah. So funny, now that I mentioned Abu Dhabi a couple of times, my other friends from Abu Dhabi chose to permanently move to Slovenia because it's just such a wonderful place, and it's kind of like a hidden gem. And so we went there, and it is great. I can say it's a really nice place to visit, and maybe for some people.
What's it like? What's different about it compared to like Hungary? What's so different about it?
Well, I guess a couple of things. It's a small country, so it's easy to navigate, although Hungary is quite small too. Hungary has a very kind of controversial government situation, or prime minister really, and it's just there's some contention there. There's some kind of, complexity around the relationship with Russia, so on and so forth. Slovenia is just like a really simple, chill place. We were in Ljubljana. It's in the mountains too, so it's just beautiful, and it's not expensive. So Hungary has also kind of been hit with a lot of inflation, and Slovenia not so much. So nice place to have an offsite at least.
No, that's great. That sounds fantastic. I was wondering because we have one of our companies in our cohort that is from Slovenia, and I was wondering about going over there and checking it out. So thanks for the feedback. So tell us a little bit about where you are. So DLC.link, the Bitcoin is the largest digital asset. It cannot be used in DeFi directly. To earn the Bitcoins, users must first transfer it to a custodian or bridge. Custodian failures and bridge hacks, however, have led over to 140 billion in losses. So you're implementing an MIT invention that makes it easy for app developers to integrate native Bitcoin. So tell us a little bit about that and how things are moving.
Yeah, definitely. So it's my second company. For both companies, I try to create something new or take an invention and commercialize it. With my first company, I actually created the invention, working with some scientists directly. For the second one, I'm not a cryptographer, so we basically adapted this work, and that was done by this guy who created the Lightning Network. This guy Taj at MIT. He had published the theory of how this could work, and then we're basically taking it to market. But like you said, the problem we're solving is that there's a lot of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is whatever $600 billion and growing. Projected to grow whatever 5-10x depending on who you listen to. BlackRock ETF with Bitcoin coming out. There's just going to be even more Bitcoin and trillions of dollars of Bitcoin. I think, that's the future we see. But if you want to use any of that Bitcoin in any kind of finance, so lending, investment, derivatives, hedging, to use, because Bitcoin from a technology standpoint, it does not have smart contracts, so you can't encode any kind of logic into Bitcoin. So you have to actually you either have to use centralized institutions, which have a really long history of blowing up in crypto, like FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, whatever. You could just name a bunch of them. You either have to use a centralized institution, which goes against the principle of Bitcoin, really, as a decentralized asset, or you have to use a bridge. And what a bridge is basically you send your Bitcoin to some smart contracts and they lock it in. The problem with bridges is you've sent your Bitcoin to someone else, and if those contracts are hacked, your Bitcoin's stolen and it's gone forever, and there's obviously no recourse. So bridges are they feel unsafe, and there have been a bunch of bridge hacks. So both CeFi, centralized finance, and bridges have been, lost hundreds of millions in hacks.
What happens, Aki? How do they get into the bridge?
Well, the thing about crypto or Web3 is all of it is open source. So any bridge, any kind of code that's running, and the smart contracts are open source on a blockchain. Anytime anyone publishes a version update, anyone in the world can read that code. And if anyone who has the skills to, infiltrate that, like North Korea has a hacking team called Lazarus Group, North Korea is watching this stuff and they're trying to steal it.
So they're stealing stuff all the time.
Yeah. North Korea is stealing crypto all the time.
How often do they do that?
I don't know offhand, but every month or every couple of weeks, there's a significant hack of something. And that's just, North Korea is one actor, but you have all the regular scammers and basically anyone with a computer who really wants to steal stuff. Crypto is I would argue, an easier target in the sense that the source is open source and you can just inspect it. And so you get these, bugs. But in the case of a bridge, your bug could lead to the whole protocol being completely drained. And then, they take the crypto and they put it in Tornado Cash or some mixer, and then they launder it, and then they take it and
mixer. What's a mixer do?
Yeah, mixer is like a money launderer. So Tornado Cash is one that the U.S. has basically sanctioned. But people use these methods of. There's another one called Thor Swap that was recently used to launder some stuff. So they find these tools. But you always have that vulnerability because any bridge is just a target. By design, bridges hold a bunch of assets, and by design, they have smart contracts that can be inspected. So what we do, what the technology that we implement, which was, originally proposed by this MIT guy, is that what if you don't send it to a bridge? You just, what we call self-wrap it. You lock it in what's called a multi-sig, but you lock it in like a lockbox, a deposit account on Bitcoin where you own the key to it. And the only place that Bitcoin can go is back to you. And that's a DLC, discrete log contract. So basically, like any individual deposit you might make, instead of just throwing that Bitcoin over, for each deposit, that specific amount of Bitcoin is put into its own lockbox that is sort of key to you. And basically, when you make the deposit, you get a token on Ethereum that you can use for investing and stuff like that, and Ethereum protocols, or take loans or whatever. And when you're done with the token, you burn it, which gives you back your Bitcoin that's locked. So it kind of unlocks your Bitcoin. And that's the system that we build. And the advantage of this is theft proof. So, if our system is hacked, we don't hold Bitcoin, and there's no like pool or bridge or whatever. So it's just that the hacker cannot steal the funds. They can unlock the funds too early, but in that case, you get your Bitcoin back too early. You're not, not a problem for you. It's like a theft-proof Bitcoin bridge.
And how's business now?
It's getting a lot of activity. We're very busy. There's a lot of Bitcoin sort of sitting on the sidelines. Something like 70% of all Bitcoin. So what is that? 400 something billion dollars of Bitcoin at current prices, which is arguably lower than what it'll be in the future. There's hundreds of billions of dollars just sort of sitting around. And in typical finance, when you have assets in treasury, you're investing it somewhere. You're earning a couple percent a year, which adds up, compound returns. I mean, it can be very significant amounts. With this Bitcoin, these Bitcoin people, these miners, they don't have those capabilities because they don't trust bridges and they don't trust CeFi. And so we're opening this channel for Bitcoin depositors to make a couple percent a year. And as they're holding this stuff over, decades, that really adds up. So there's been a lot of interest, a lot of reception. And long story short, we're launching it live in a few months. So, it'll actually be live and people will finally be able to use it.
No, that's fantastic. So we're coming up to the top of the show. So closing thoughts to startups that are out there around the world in terms of how to build your company and anything else you'd like to say.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would say that worked for us is, you got to hustle with these funds. I have a big spreadsheet. I've talked to over 300 VC funds. Every VC fund I talk to, I put on my spreadsheet. I note the name of the person, when we talk, whatever stage. I put them on our monthly newsletter. That's something that you guys teach in your program, to have a monthly newsletter, have all the news, send it to our existing investors and our prospective investors. Over 300 people are getting this every month, just updates on us, no pressure, just here's what we're doing. And just kind of, I might talk to VCs. We're not raising right now. We have plenty of runway, plenty of help, but I talk to VCs almost every day because they're, smart people with money. I want to get more perspectives. I want more people to challenge our idea or point out the weak spots or whatever, or give us, strategic introductions or help. So it's just, show up every day, do prospecting every day, do it for whatever, 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour, whatever you want to do. But every single day, reach out to people you don't know, or request introductions, or spend your time meeting people, not in your network. I think that really separates, like, there's entrepreneurs that like to just tinker and build stuff and kind of be at home. And then the ones that like get out of the building. And, if you get out of building every day, you're going to like just build up
that's
that.
Good. I mean, that's a Bob Dorff and Steve Blank say, right? You got to get out of the building. And sometimes we forget as founders, you got to get out. And you also, storytelling is 90% of building a company. And sometimes we forget about it. You're right about it. So, and you've raised what, $2 million? So you've gotten a $2 million raise. That's fantastic.
two to date. And now we're not even raising, but we have like close to $1 million in interest already on our next round and whatever. So like it does snowball, but you got to keep doing it every day. And then that never stops. I mean, I think even in 10 years, I'll be, as long as this company exists, we're going to be hustling and, making things happen.
Now, you've done a nice job, Aki. Thanks for taking time out of
Thank you.
business schedule. And we're real proud of you at GSD for being one of our stars, of our many stars, but one of our star standouts today. You've done a great job, and you enable safe lending on Bitcoin. So we're real proud of you. To all the audience out there, thank you for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again next Tuesday for another exciting edition. Thanks a lot, Augie. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.